We'll delve into the future of Ghana's pension system, the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, what we usually call SSNIT. We're examining the state of contributions, reserves, and sustainability beyond 2036. Now, the International Labour Organization, ILO, has projected that SSNIT's total reserves will suffer complete depletion by year 2036. In other words, SSNIT will not be in a position to pay you and I if we retire in 2036 because there will be no money in its coffers. But the trouble is projected to even start way before year 2036. And so I have been joined in studio by Kofi Agyei. He's a senior person with our research desk here at Joy News. He's going to break the data down for us so we can appreciate what is actually happening at SSNIT. So, Kofi, what is the meat involved in this whole thing?
Well, Carlos, this is not the first time that this type of actuarial studies is being done for SSNIT. And so this was done for the ILO for SSNIT. The first time, or the last time they did one of this such actuarial studies was 2017. Now, when they did that actuarial study in 2017, they projected that by 2040, I think 2049 or 2046, SSNIT's reserves were going to deplete or go to complete zero.
Okay.
Then the second one was done in 2021. This time around, the projection actually reduced the year from that 2040 something to now 2036. Now, if you look at that, it simply means that if you read the report and analyze the data in there, it tells you that currently SSNIT is in a good position. But by 2029, what we are going to realize is that SSNIT's contributions, investments, will not be enough to pay benefits. What it means is that they will begin to rely on their reserves, what they already have as the buffer. Then
that's from 2029.
That's from 2029.
Okay.
Then after this period, SSNIT's buffer or reserve is going to run into zero by 2036 after they start relying on it by 2029. So you have on your screens there that SSNIT reserves are going to deplete and it's going to go to zero by 2036. The last time they did this was beyond 2040 something. Now it's being brought down to 2036.
Yeah.
How scary is it? Let's look at the numbers. Let's go at the next slide that talks about, the indebtedness to SSNIT, the total debt as at the time that they were doing these actuarial studies. They looked at a debt burden of 9.35, almost 9.4 billion Ghana cedis. Now, this was as of 2029. Now, this 9.4 billion, 2021.
21, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, out of this $9.4 billion, let's look at what was being attributed or given to government. Let's look at the next slide, and you see the magnitude of debt that government itself was holding in terms of late payment. That was around 6.9 billion Ghana cedis. That's more than 73% of the total indebtedness to SSNIT. Now, this is a huge figure. What did the study find in terms of some of this late payment and how it's going to affect, the
sustainability
of SSNIT? Let's look at that. And they say that, this is interesting, that per every late payment, SSNIT loses 1.3% in terms of investment. There's 1.3% drop in investment return each year that there's late payment. So our money, that deductions are being made, whenever there's late payment on behalf, whether it's from government or from the private sector, SSNIT is losing 1.3% in terms of investment returns. Now, what does it happen when government decides to do late payment or they are not paying the deduction ahead of time? According to the study, this puts a lot of pressure on the private sector. It means that now the money is supposed to come from two sources. We have the public and then the private. Now, the public one is supposed to be deducted by government and paid by government, but they are having to pay this money, late payment, all over the place. Now, when that happens, we know how they treat the public sector. They go, as for the public sector, you can't default, you need to pay. So because
the private sector?
The private sector is available, what happens is that it puts a lot of pressure on the funds coming from the private sector. And ILO says government must solve this, make the payments ahead of time. Now, we're looking at the fiscal data provided by the Finance Ministry. This study was done 2020, published in 2024, gave us some interesting outlook in 2021. We wanted to know a very recent year like 2020, what happened. So what we saw was that if you look at compensation for employees in the 2022 budget, government budgeted more than 37 billion Ghana cedis to pay in terms of compensation for employees.
Okay.
That includes social contribution, I mean, gratuity, pensions, and all of that, social security, all of those things included. At the end of 2022, what we saw was that the provisional R10, government has spent beyond that 37 billion that they projected. They have spent more than 39 billion. But if you go to the SSNIT side or the social security side, the amount they budgeted fell short by close to 1 billion Ghana cedis.
And that is huge.
But the entire compensation of employee budget went up by 2 billion Ghana cedis. But what was supposed to go into pensions fell by 1 billion Ghana. Let's look at some of the recommendations that the ILO gave to SSNIT. So first one is that SSNIT needs to adopt a proper funding policy. The current policy that exists, I mean, ILO is saying that do some sort of twist to it so that it becomes proper, and then the funding policy will be reliable and sustainable. We are also looking at allowances should be included in pension contributions. So we know that it's your base salary that we actually compute this, your contribution. But before you deduct my social security, please add my allowances so that, I mean, the package will be huge, and SSNIT will also have the inflows that they need to make the investment. Then also, stop adjusting pensions according to salary. Instead, use inflation.
Exactly.
We saw the statement that SSNIT issued after this report came out that, I mean, they keep on collecting, and then they are hoping that the labor force will increase, they will get more salary and all of those things. But ILO is saying that it's good when you do the adjustment to salary, but do it to inflation. We all know how inflation eats people's disposable income. And so if I'm contributing and currently I get 4,000 cedis in the next 4 or 5 years or 6 years, if you give me that same 4,000, my disposable income,
and inflation, exactly.
Then one key aspect is that we know that SSNIT was relying on the local bonds markets to invest and get the returns. Now, as a result of the DDEP, that market has almost collapsed. So the key question is, how is SSNIT investing the monies that they deduct from them? I mean, are they going to T-bills? We know how T-bills short term. I mean, the last time that they did it, we know that, I mean, the T-bill interest rate is coming down. There was some sort of, under subscription and all of that. So it's a very interesting conversation, and these are projections. And I mean, SSNIT will answer some questions, and we'll see if sustainability is really there. So, but this is what the entire discussion is really talking about. That's the report and interesting data in there.
Thank you,
Carlos.
Thank you.